beside me said under his breath.
"Did you want something?"
"Yes."
"What?"
What? He smiled.
"Would you like?"
I bit my bottom lip. The main reason I hadn't ordered anything earlier was because I had no idea what to ask for. "Whatever you're having," I said when I saw the woman returning.
"Another, if you would, please." He pointed to his glass. "And a crack of champagne."
"Certainly," she said with a smile. For him, not me. She hadn't looked at me since shortly after I boarded, and she brought me a soda. I wasn't sure she'd glanced at me then, even when I thanked her. She set both bottles and a fresh cup of ice in front of him, and he poured a little from each before handing it to me.
"This is called a Scotch fizz. You may fancy this a bit more than the straight stuff."
I took a sip, coughed, and sputtered when simultaneously the bubbles went up my nose and the liquid burned my throat.
"Right,"
he mumbled, taking the drink from my hand.
"Let's try something a little tamer."
"It's fine, really." He unfastened his seatbelt and walked the 2 rows to the front. When he returned a minute later with yet another bottle of liquor and a Coke, he proceeded to fill the glass with the soda, added a small amount of alcohol to it, and gave it to me. "Thank you, sir." When I took a sip, it tasted almost the same as what I'd had earlier without any alcohol in it. I set it on the tray, and he added more rum to it.
"Drink up. We're about to taxi for takeoff,"
he said, downing what was in his glass. He tossed it in the bag one of the other attendants held out to him. I did the same after guzzling what was mainly Coke.
"I'm Nevin,"
he said, holding out his hand. I shook it. "Harper, and thank you."
"Not at all."
I gripped the armrests as the plane gained speed and squeezed my eyes shut. If Dave were with me, it would be his hand I held rather than part of my seat. I felt my cheeks heat, remembering how embarrassed I'd been when my stepmother burst into the anteroom where I'd been ensconced for what felt like hours. "I can't believe you were jilted at the altar," she'd exclaimed. That had earned her a glare from my mother, who asked her to leave so she could speak with me privately.
"I can't stand that woman,"
she'd muttered under her breath. Her sentiment didn't come as any surprise, given my father had left her for the skeevy bitch. "What will you do?" she'd asked. "I'm going to London as planned." My mother raised a brow. "As Mouse said, it's paid for, so I should take the opportunity to travel." She hadn't had much more to say on the subject. I knew she thought I wouldn't go through with it. Yet here I was, terrified I was making a huge mistake, but at least proving her wrong.
2. Saint. I studied the woman in the seat beside me. She reminded me of someone, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly who. She was attractive-ish, not my usual type. However, could I truly say I had one? I found most women beautiful in one way or another. This one, though, I found inexplicably intriguing. Given we had a little over 7 hours to kill, I looked forward to getting to know her better. Anything to get my mind off the bloody events of the last few days. Longer than that, if I were being honest. It had been several weeks since I'd turned up at a meeting for a mission involving the extraction of a former CIA contractor to whom the Chinese government had given asylum. Securing the invitation hadn't been easy, since a few weeks before I'd been sacked from MI6 for botching a different mission involving China. Once I was there, getting either of the units involved to add me to their team was even harder. As I sat in on the meeting, I felt the disdain of my peers. I hadn't imagined it. Their lack of respect was as heavy as it was thick. I'd used the derision to convince the lead operative, Paxson Irish Warwick, to let me go along. It was a feeling he'd experienced for much longer than I had. For several months, he, like the man we would be extracting, was believed to be a double agent, a traitor, someone to be reviled, not just by those he worked with, but the entirety of the democratic world. Begging, as I had, was not normally in my wheelhouse, at least not until then.